Jeremy Ramos stood motionless as two Soleil females were presented to him, their eyes downcast and bodies trembling. This was not how he had expected his day to unfold when he woke up this morning. The human soldier's mind raced, trying to comprehend the bizarre turn of events that had led to this moment. Just hours ago, he had been part of a routine diplomatic mission to the alien planet Soleil. Now he found himself at the center of an ancient custom that threatened to upend the delicate alliance between Earth and its new extraterrestrial partners. It had all started with a demonstration of combat techniques. Jeremy, a decorated veteran of the Earth Defense Force, had been asked to showcase human fighting styles. His opponent was Yaksa, a proud Soleil warrior known for his prowess in battle. What was meant to be a friendly exchange quickly escalated into a fierce competition, with Jeremy emerging victorious. As the dust settled and the crowd's cheers faded, Elder Thorn, head of the Soleil High Council, approached with a solemn expression. "Congratulations, human," he intoned, his voice reverberating through the massive trunk of the ancient tree-like structure that housed the capital city of Krylos. "By defeating our champion, you have triggered the right of servitude. You must now accept these two females as your personal servants." Jeremy's eyes widened in disbelief. "Servants? You mean slaves?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ambassador Maria Reyes, leader of the human delegation, stepped forward. "Elder Thorn, surely there's been some misunderstanding. We cannot condone slavery in any form." The Soleil elder's expression hardened. "This is not a matter for debate, Ambassador. It is our most sacred tradition. To refuse would be a grave insult to our people and could jeopardize our newly formed alliance." Jeremy's heart sank as he realized the gravity of the situation. Earth desperately needed this alliance. The Soleil possessed advanced technology and rare minerals crucial for defending against the impending Zoraxian invasion. Without these resources, humanity's chances of survival were slim. Reluctantly, Jeremy nodded his acceptance. As he did so, the two Soleil females were brought forward. "This is Zira," Elder Thorn said, indicating the taller of the two, "and this is Kala. They are now yours to command." Jeremy met their eyes, seeing fear and uncertainty reflected back at him. He silently vowed to find a way to free them without compromising the alliance. As the ceremony concluded, Jeremy noticed Yaksa glaring at him from the shadows. The defeated Soleil warrior's eyes burned with humiliation and rage, promising future conflict. Ambassador Reyes pulled Jeremy aside as they were led to their quarters in the heart of Krylos. "This complicates things," she whispered urgently. "We need to tread carefully. The Soleil social structure is more complex than we realized. One wrong move could unravel everything we've worked for." Jeremy nodded grimly. "I understand, Ambassador. I'll do whatever it takes to maintain the alliance, but I won't treat Zira and Kayla as slaves. There has to be another way." As they walked through the bustling city, marveling at the advanced technology seamlessly integrated into the organic structure of the massive tree, Jeremy's mind raced. He needed a plan to navigate this cultural minefield, free Zira and Kala, and secure the alliance, all while watching his back for Yaksa's inevitable retaliation. Little did Jeremy know that his new servants held secrets that could change the course of the coming war with the Zoraxians. As night fell over Krylos, casting long shadows through the bioluminescent leaves, the stage was set for a tale of intrigue, diplomacy, and the indomitable human spirit in the face of alien customs and looming galactic conflict. As the bioluminescent leaves cast an ethereal glow over Krylos, Jeremy Ramos lay awake in his quarters, his mind racing. The weight of his newfound responsibility pressed down on him like a physical force. He knew he had to act quickly to navigate this treacherous situation. With the first light of dawn, Jeremy made his decision. He would treat Zira and Kala with the respect and dignity they deserved. Alliance be damned. As he stepped out of his room, he found the two Soleil females waiting for him, eyes downcast. "Zira, Kala," he said softly, "please look at me." They raised their heads, uncertainty evident in their large amber eyes. "I want you to understand something," Jeremy continued, his voice firm but kind. "I don't see you as servants or slaves. In my culture, that concept is abhorrent. I hope we can work together as equals." Zira, the taller of the two, tilted her head. But the right of servitude is not something I believe in, Jeremy interrupted gently. I respect your customs, but I won't enforce this one. You're free to go if you wish. Kala's eyes widened. Leave? But where would we go? Jeremy saw an opportunity. If you're willing, I could use your help. There's much about your world I don't understand, and Earth needs this alliance to work. Over the next few days, Jeremy spent time with Zira and Kala, learning about their lives and culture. He discovered Zira's background in Sile military technology and Kala's diplomatic experience. Their knowledge proved invaluable as Jeremy navigated the complex social landscape of Krylos. Meanwhile, Ambassador Reyes was embroiled in tense negotiations. Jeremy often found her in heated discussions with Elder Thorn and other Sile officials. The conservative factions are pushing back hard, Reyes confided in Jeremy one evening. Their leader, Drax, seems determined to derail our efforts. Jeremy nodded, his brow furrowed. I've heard whispers about Drax from Kala. He's got a lot of support among the traditionalists. As Jeremy integrated himself into Sile society, he began to notice discrepancies. Hushed conversations that stopped when he approached, furtive glances exchanged between certain officials. His instincts, honed by years of military service, told him something was amiss. One night, as he was returning from a diplomatic function, Jeremy overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. Hidden behind a massive root structure, he listened as Yaksa, the warrior he had defeated, spoke in hushed tones with an unknown individual. The Zoraxians grow impatient, the stranger hissed. They demand results. Yaksa's reply was barely audible. Tell them to wait. Once Drax consolidates power, we'll have what we need to turn the tide. Jeremy's mind raced. A conspiracy involving the Zoraxians? This could destroy not just the Alliance, but potentially doom Earth itself. He had to act, but one wrong move could unravel everything. The next morning, Jeremy shared his discovery with Ambassador Reyes in a secure location. This is worse than we imagined, Reyes said, her face pale. If the Zoraxians have infiltrated the Sile government, we need proof, Jeremy stated. Concrete evidence before we can act. Reyes nodded grimly. You'll have to get close to Yaksa's group. It's risky, but we don't have a choice. Jeremy agreed, knowing the dangerous game he was about to play. To gain access to Yaksa's inner circle, he would have to embrace the role that had been thrust upon him, the victorious human who now commanded Sile servants. The thought made him sick, but he knew it was necessary. At the next social gathering, Jeremy arrived with Zira and Kala in tow, their heads bowed in a show of submission. He felt their confusion and hurt radiating off them in waves, and it took all his willpower not to break character. As Jeremy mingled with the Sile elite, he caught Yaksa's eye. The defeated warrior approached, his gaze calculating. I see you've embraced our ways, human, Yaksa said, his tone dripping with false congeniality. Jeremy forced a smile. I've come to appreciate many aspects of your culture. Yaksa nodded approvingly. Perhaps you'd be interested in joining us for a more private gathering? A select group of us meet to discuss matters of importance to Sile's future. I'd be honored, Jeremy replied, his heart racing at the opportunity. As Jeremy immersed himself deeper into Yaksa's world, he felt the watchful eyes of Elder Thorn upon him. The Sile leader had assigned Krell, a stern-faced security officer, to shadow Jeremy's movements. Krell's presence complicated Jeremy's investigation, forcing him to be ever more cautious. Every conversation, every interaction became a delicate dance of deception and misdirection. The strain began to show in Jeremy's relationship with Zira and Kala. The two Sile females, once beginning to trust him, now regarded him with a mixture of confusion and betrayal. Jeremy longed to explain, to tell them the truth, but he knew the risks were too great. As tensions mounted and Jeremy delved deeper into the conspiracy, Yaksa approached him with an unexpected challenge. You bested me once, human, Yaksa said, his voice carrying across the gathering. I demand a rematch. If you win, your position here is secure. If you lose, your servants become mine. Jeremy's heart hammered in his chest. He looked at Zira and Kala, seeing the fear in their eyes. He knew he couldn't refuse without raising suspicions, but the thought of them falling into Yaxa's hands filled him with dread. "I accept," Jeremy said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. As he prepared for the impending battle, Jeremy realized his feelings for Zira and Kayla had grown far beyond his initial intentions. The prospect of losing them, of failing in his mission, was suddenly more terrifying than any enemy he had faced on the battlefield. With the date of the rematch looming, Jeremy found himself torn between his duty to Earth, his growing attachment to Zira and Kala, and the web of deception he had woven. As he stared out at the bioluminescent canopy of Krylos, he knew that the coming days would test him in ways he had never imagined. As the bioluminescent leaves cast their ethereal glow over Krylos, Jeremy's mind raced with anticipation. The day of the rematch had arrived, bringing with it a palpable tension that hung in the air like a heavy fog. The grand arena of Krylos buzzed with excitement as thousands of Saleh spectators filed in, their eyes wide with anticipation. Jeremy stood in the preparation chamber, his heart pounding in his chest as he went through his warm-up routine. The human diplomatic delegation sat in a designated area, their faces a mix of concern and hope. Ambassador Reyes approached Jeremy, her voice low and urgent. "Remember what's at stake here, Jeremy. The Alliance, Earth future, everything hangs in the balance." Jeremy nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. As he stepped into the arena, the roar of the crowd washed over him. Across the field, Yaxa emerged, his muscular frame radiating confidence. Elder Thorn's voice boomed through the arena. "Let the rematch begin." The two combatants circled each other, each searching for an opening. Yaxa struck first, his movements fluid and precise. Jeremy barely managed to dodge, realizing with a jolt that his opponent had indeed improved significantly. Yaxa pressed his advantage, unleashing a flurry of strikes that forced Jeremy on the defensive. A well-placed kick sent Jeremy stumbling backward, drawing gasps from the crowd. As he regained his footing, Jeremy tasted blood in his mouth. The fight continued, with Yaxa seeming to anticipate Jeremy's every move. A vicious elbow strike caught Jeremy in the ribs, sending a spike of pain through his body. He faltered, dropping to one knee. In that moment, Jeremy's eyes found Zira and Kayla in the crowd. Their faces were etched with fear and concern. The sight of them ignited something within him, a fierce protectiveness that surged through his veins. With renewed focus, Jeremy rose to his feet. He began to move differently, blending the Earth combat techniques he knew so well with the Saleh fighting style he had observed during his time on the planet. Yaxa's eyes widened in surprise as Jeremy launched a counterattack. The human soldier moved with a fluid grace, his strikes precise and powerful. A sweeping leg kick caught Yaxa off guard, sending him crashing to the ground. The tide of the battle had turned. Jeremy pressed his advantage, his movements a blur of Earth and Saleh techniques. Yaxa fought back desperately, but he couldn't match Jeremy's newfound rhythm. With a final decisive strike, Jeremy sent Yaxa sprawling. The arena fell silent for a moment before erupting in a cacophony of cheers and gasps. Elder Thorn's voice cut through the noise. "The human, Jeremy, is victorious. His status and ownership of Zira and Kayla are reaffirmed." As the crowd's roar washed over him, Jeremy swayed on his feet. The adrenaline faded, leaving him acutely aware of his injuries. Saleh medical staff rushed to his side, guiding him to a treatment area. As they worked on his wounds, Jeremy's sharp ears caught a snippet of conversation nearby. "Yaxa, this changes nothing," a low voice hissed. "The meeting to discuss the next phase of the plan is still on." Jeremy's mind raced. This was the lead he'd been waiting for. In the days that followed, Jeremy found himself the center of attention in Krylos. As he recovered from his injuries, he noticed a shift in Zira and Kala's behavior. They seemed more open, their eyes shining with a newfound respect. One evening, as they sat in Jeremy's quarters, Zira leaned forward, her voice low. "Jeremy, we want to help you. We know you're investigating something important." Kala nodded. "We've seen how you treat us, with respect and kindness. We want to repay that trust." Jeremy hesitated, weighing the risks. Finally, he decided to take a chance. There's a conspiracy, he explained quietly. A group working with the Zoraxians, threatening the Alliance and both our worlds. Zira's eyes widened. The secret weapons program. It could be connected. As they began to plan, Jeremy felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with his healing injuries. The three of them worked seamlessly together. Zira's knowledge of Soleil military technology and Kala's diplomatic insights proving invaluable. Meanwhile, Ambassador Reyes was making progress in her negotiations. Jeremy's victory had given her leverage, and she used it skillfully. Jeremy's respect for our customs and his combat prowess demonstrate humanity's commitment to this alliance, she argued in a meeting with Elder Thorn and other Soleil officials. As Jeremy, Zira, and Kala deepened their bond, Jeremy found himself grappling with conflicting emotions. His duty to Earth warred with his growing feelings for his Soleil companions and his desire to free them from their imposed servitude. Their planning sessions were frequently interrupted by Krell, the stern-faced security officer assigned to shadow Jeremy. His suspicious gaze made secret meetings increasingly difficult. One night, as Jeremy pored over the plans they'd made, an encrypted message from Earth Command flashed on his communication device. His blood ran cold as he read the contents. Increased Zoraxian fleet activity near the Soleil system. The next morning, Jeremy gathered Zira and Kala close. "We're out of time," he whispered urgently. "The Zoraxians are on the move. We need to infiltrate that meeting and expose the conspiracy now." As they finalized their plans, Jeremy couldn't shake the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The fate of two worlds, the lives of those he'd grown to care for deeply, and his own future all hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for what was to come, knowing that the true test of his skills, loyalty, and heart was yet to begin. Jeremy, Zira, and Kala moved swiftly through the bioluminescent streets of Kralos, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The weight of their mission pressed heavily upon them as they approached the hidden entrance to the underground chamber. Zira's fingers danced across a small device. Her eyes narrowed in concentration. "I've accessed their security feeds," she whispered. "We have a clear path to the meeting room." Jeremy nodded, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "Good work. Kala, are you ready with our cover stories?" Kala straightened her posture, adopting the demeanor of a low-ranking Soleil official. "Absolutely. Remember, keep your heads down and your voices low. We're here to observe and report, nothing more." As they descended into the depths of the Soleil capital, the air grew thick with tension. The walls seemed to close in around them, the bioluminescent fungi casting eerie shadows that danced across their faces. They reached the meeting chamber just as Yaxa's voice echoed through the room. Jeremy's blood ran cold as he heard the warrior speak. "Our Zoraxian allies grow impatient," Yaxa said, his voice carrying a hint of frustration. "They demand results, and soon." Drax, the ambitious politician, stepped forward. "And they shall have them. Our operatives have already begun sabotaging key defense systems. When the time comes, the Earth-Soleil alliance will crumble like sand." Jeremy felt Zira stiffen beside him. He placed a reassuring hand on her arm, reminding her to maintain their cover. They listened intently as the conspirators laid out their plans, each revelation more damning than the last. Suddenly, Kala gasped. "The research facility," she breathed, her eyes wide with horror. "They're planning to attack it tonight." Jeremy's mind raced. The facility housed critical data on the Alliance's defensive capabilities. If it fell into Zoraxian hands, both Earth and Soleil would be vulnerable. As the meeting concluded, the trio slipped away, their hearts pounding with urgency. They had nearly reached the exit when a familiar voice cut through the air. "Stop right there." They turned to see Krell, the stern-faced security officer, his weapon trained on them. Jeremy's hand instinctively moved towards his own concealed weapon, but Zira's quick thinking saved them. "Officer Krell," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We were just leaving. Is there a problem?" Krell's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "You three shouldn't be here. This area is restricted." The tension in the air was palpable as Krell studied them. Jeremy knew they couldn't afford to be caught now, not when they were so close to exposing the conspiracy. "Run!" he shouted, pushing Zira and Kala ahead of him as he sprinted down the corridor. The underground tunnels became a maze as they fled, the sound of Krell's pursuit echoing behind them. Jeremy's military training kicked in as he guided them through the winding passages. "We need to split up," he said breathlessly. "Meet at the rendezvous point. Go!" Zira and Kala hesitated for a moment before nodding and darting down separate corridors. Jeremy continued straight ahead, drawing Krell away from his companions. The chase led Jeremy through a series of increasingly narrow passages. He could hear Krell's heavy breathing behind him, growing closer with each passing second. Just as he thought he might be caught, a hand reached out from a hidden alcove and pulled him inside. Jeremy found himself face to face with a Selay female, her eyes bright with intelligence and dedication. "I'm Lyra," she said quickly. "I'm here to help. Follow me." As they made their way through a series of hidden passages, Lyra explained that she was part of a secret resistance within Selay society. "We've been watching Yaksa and his conspirators for months," she said. "We support the alliance with Earth, but we needed proof of the betrayal." Jeremy's mind whirled with this new information. "We need to warn Ambassador Reyes about the attack on the research facility," he said urgently. Lyra nodded. "I can help you get to the Earth Embassy, but first, we need to rendezvous with your friends." They emerged from the underground tunnels near the predetermined meeting point. Jeremy scanned the area anxiously, relief washing over him as he spotted Zira and Kala approaching cautiously. The reunion was brief but emotional. Zira and Kala quickly recounted their narrow escape, including the crucial information they had overheard about the conspirators' next move. "We don't have much time," Jeremy said, introducing Lyra to the group. "We need to split up again. Lyra and I will warn Ambassador Reyes and try to prevent the attack. Zira, Kala, I need you to gather more evidence to present to Elder Thorn. We need to expose this conspiracy once and for all." As they prepared to part ways once more, Jeremy found himself locked in an intense gaze with Zira and Kala. The danger they had faced together had crystallized something between them, a bond that transcended their initial roles as captor and captives. "Be careful," Zira said softly, her hand lingering on Jeremy's arm. Kala nodded, her eyes filled with unspoken emotion. "We'll see this through together," she added. With a final shared look of perseverance, the group split up. Jeremy and Lyra raced towards the Earth Embassy, the urgency of their mission driving them forward. As they approached the imposing structure, Jeremy's heart sank. The embassy was in lockdown, its communication systems clearly jammed. "We need to get inside," Jeremy said, his mind already formulating a plan. "Lyra, you said you have access codes?" The Selay scientist nodded, her fingers flying over a hidden panel near the embassy's service entrance. "These codes should get us past the first layer of security," she said. "After that, we'll need your Earth Defense Force credentials." As they worked to bypass the embassy's formidable defenses, Jeremy couldn't help but think of Zira and Kala. He hoped they were safe, knowing the dangers they faced in gathering evidence against Yaksa and his co-conspirators. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they breached the embassy's security. Jeremy led the way, his military training guiding him through the eerily silent corridors towards Ambassador Reyes's office. They found the ambassador hunched over her desk, her face lined with worry. She looked up as they burst in, her expression quickly shifting from surprise to relief. "Jeremy," she said, rising to her feet. "What's happening? Our communications are down, and I can't reach Earth Command." Jeremy took a deep breath, knowing that the next few moments would shape the fate of two worlds. "Ambassador," he said gravely, "we've uncovered a conspiracy. The Zoraxians are planning an attack on the research facility, and they have allies within the Selay government." As he began to explain the full extent of the situation, Jeremy could see the weight of responsibility settling on Ambassador Reyes's shoulders. The next few hours would be crucial, and the actions they took now would determine the future of the Earth-Selay alliance. Meanwhile, across the city, Zira and Kala were about to face their own challenges as they delved deeper into the heart of the conspiracy, unaware of the dangers that lay ahead. Ahead, the streets of Krylos blurred around them as they raced towards their destination, the weight of their mission pressing down upon their shoulders. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. A deafening explosion lit up the night sky, followed by the unmistakable sound of weapons fire. The Zoraxian attack on the Joint Earth-Sealay research facility had begun. Jeremy's communicator crackled to life, Ambassador Reyes's voice cutting through the chaos. "Jeremy, we need you at the command center immediately. The Zoraxians have launched their assault." "On my way," Jeremy replied, exchanging a quick glance with Lyra. They changed course, sprinting towards the Earth Embassy, where a makeshift command center had been established. As they burst through the doors, they found Ambassador Reyes coordinating with Earth Defense Force officers. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data, showing the Zoraxian fleet engaging Earthships in orbit around Sealay. "Report," Jeremy said, stepping up to the central console. Ambassador Reyes's face was grim. "The Zoraxians caught us off guard, but Earth reinforcements arrived just in time. They're engaging the enemy fleet in orbit, but we need to protect the research facility on the ground." Jeremy nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "I'll lead a team to secure the facility and its data. Lyra, can you provide us with the layout and security protocols?" As Lyra began uploading the necessary information, alarms blared throughout the command center. A young officer called out, "Multiple Zoraxian dropships detected entering the atmosphere." Jeremy turned to Ambassador Reyes. "We need to move now. If we lose that data, both Earth and Sealay will be vulnerable." The ambassador nodded. "Go. I'll coordinate with our orbital defenses and try to keep the Zoraxians from landing more troops." Jeremy quickly assembled a team of Earth Defense Force soldiers and Sealay security personnel. As they prepared to move out, he couldn't help but wonder about Zira and Kala. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. Across the city, Zira and Kala found themselves in a very different kind of battle. They stood before Elder Thorn and the Sealay High Council, presenting the evidence they had gathered against Yaxa and Drax. "These recordings clearly show Yaxa and Drax conspiring with Zoraxian agents," Zira said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Kala stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in her measured tone. "The attack happening right now is the direct result of their betrayal. They've compromised our defenses and put both our worlds at risk." Elder Thorn's face was a mask of disbelief and anger. "These are serious accusations. How can we be certain this evidence is genuine?" Before either Zira or Kala could respond, the council chamber doors burst open. Officer Krell strode in, his stern face set with drive. "Honorable Council," he said, bowing slightly, "I can confirm the authenticity of this evidence. I've been conducting my own investigation and have uncovered additional proof of Yaxa and Drax's treachery." The council chamber erupted into murmurs of shock and outrage. Elder Thorn raised a hand, silencing the room. His eyes, normally so calm, now blazed with fury. "Arrest Yaxa and Drax immediately," he ordered, "and mobilize our military forces. We must join the battle against the Zoraxians." As Sealay forces scrambled to respond to the attack, Jeremy and his team fought their way through the streets of Krylos. Zoraxian soldiers had already landed, their advanced weaponry tearing through the city's defenses. They reached the research facility to find it under heavy assault. Jeremy quickly divided his team, sending half to reinforce the perimeter, while he led the rest inside to secure the data. "Lyra," he called over the comm, "we need access to the main server room." "Sending the access codes now," Lyra's voice crackled back. "Be careful, Jeremy. Our scans show multiple Zoraxian signatures inside the building." Jeremy acknowledged the warning and pressed forward. The facility's corridors were a maze of twisted metal and flickering lights, the air thick with smoke and the acrid smell of weapons fire. They encountered heavy resistance as they approached the server room. Jeremy's team fought valiantly, their Earth and Sealay members working in perfect sync. As they neared their objective, a Zoraxian grenade sailed through the air, heading straight for Lyra, who had insisted on joining the mission. Without hesitation, Jeremy threw himself in front of Lyra. The grenade exploded, sending shrapnel tearing through his body. He collapsed to the ground, blood seeping through his uniform. "Jeremy!" Lyra cried, dropping to her knees beside him. She quickly assessed his injuries, her face paling at the severity of the wounds. Despite the pain threatening to overwhelm him, Jeremy managed to gasp out, "Complete the mission. Secure the data." As his team fought to hold off the Zoraxian advance, Lyra worked frantically to download the critical research data. Jeremy's vision began to blur, the sounds of battle fading as he slipped into unconsciousness. The next thing Jeremy knew, he was being rushed through the corridors of a Soleil medical center. Through the haze of pain, he could hear doctors shouting urgently in their native language. Human physiology, unknown factors, critical condition. As the medical team struggled to stabilize him, Jeremy's thoughts drifted to Zira and Kayla. He wondered if he would ever see them again, if he would have the chance to tell them how he truly felt. Suddenly, familiar voices cut through the chaos. Zira and Kayla burst into the medical bay, their faces etched with concern. "We need to help him," Zira said, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar medical equipment. Kala nodded, already moving towards the bewildered Soleil medical staff. "Let us assist. We have knowledge of human physiology that could save his life." As Zira began modifying the Soleil medical equipment to better suit human needs, Kala engaged in a heated discussion with the lead doctor. "This is unprecedented," the doctor protested. "We cannot allow untrained individuals to interfere with medical procedures." Kala's voice was firm but persuasive. "Without our help, he will die. You must trust us." After a tense moment, the doctor relented. Zira and Kala worked tirelessly, their unique understanding of both human and Soleil technology proving invaluable. Hours passed, the medical bay a flurry of activity as they fought to save Jeremy's life. Finally, his condition began to stabilize. The lead doctor looked at Zira and Kayla with newfound respect. "Your intervention may have saved his life," he admitted. "We'll continue to monitor his condition closely." As Jeremy was moved to a recovery room, Zira and Kayla refused to leave his side. They took turns watching over him, their hands gently holding his, their voices soft as they spoke to him of their hopes for his recovery. Days passed, and slowly Jeremy began to regain consciousness. His eyes fluttered open to find Zira and Kayla seated beside his bed, their faces lighting up as they realized he was awake. "Welcome back," Zira said softly, her hand squeezing his gently. Kala leaned in, her eyes shining with emotion. "We were so worried about you." Jeremy's voice was weak, but his words were clear. "You saved me, both of you." As he looked at them, Jeremy felt a surge of emotion. The time for hiding his feelings had passed. He opened his mouth to speak, ready to tell them exactly how much they meant to him, when a knock at the door interrupted the moment. Ambassador Reyes entered the room, her face a mix of relief and urgency. "I'm glad to see you're awake, Jeremy. We have much to discuss. The battle is over, but our challenges are far from finished." Jeremy nodded, sensing that their lives were about to change in ways none of them could have anticipated. As he prepared to hear the ambassador's news, he reached out, taking Zira and Kala's hands in his own. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Together. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as Ambassador Reyes took a seat beside Jeremy's bed. "First, let me express my gratitude for your heroic actions," she began, her voice carrying a mix of admiration and urgency. "The data you secured has proven invaluable in our negotiations with the Soleil government. However, we now face a new challenge." Jeremy shifted slightly, wincing at the pain that still lingered from his injuries. "What kind of challenge, Ambassador?" Reyes leaned forward, her eyes scanning the faces of Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla. "The Earth-Soleil alliance is at a critical juncture. We need to solidify our position in the galactic community and counter the propaganda spread by the Zoraxians. That's where you three come in." Kala's antenna twitched with interest. "How can we help?" "We're proposing a galactic tour," Reyes explained. "You three would serve as representatives of the alliance, visiting key worlds to foster diplomatic relations and showcase the benefits of our partnership." Zira's eyes widened. "A tour of the galaxy? That's unprecedented." Jeremy nodded slowly, processing the information. "It would certainly be a unique opportunity to promote interspecies cooperation." Reyes smiled. "Exactly. Your experiences and your unique relationship make you ideal candidates for this mission. You embody the very essence of what our alliance stands for. The trio exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. After a moment, Jeremy spoke up. "We'll do it. When do we leave?" "As soon as you're cleared for travel," Reyes replied. "Your first stop will be Nexus Prime. It's a technologically advanced world, but they've been influenced by Zoraxian propaganda. Winning them over could be crucial for our cause." Over the next few weeks, Jeremy underwent intensive physical therapy to regain his strength. Zira and Kayla remained by his side, assisting with his recovery and preparing for their upcoming mission. Finally, the day of departure arrived. The sleek diplomatic vessel, christened the Harmony, stood ready on the launch pad. As Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla boarded, they were struck by the gravity of their task. They were no longer just individuals caught up in a conspiracy. They were now ambassadors for an entire alliance. The journey to Nexus Prime took several days, during which the trio immersed themselves in briefings about Nexusian culture and politics. As they approached the planet, its gleaming cityscapes and towering spires came into view, a testament to the advanced civilization that awaited them. Their reception on Nexus Prime was polite but cool. The Nexusian officials who greeted them wore expressions of barely concealed skepticism. Jeremy could sense the tension as they were led to their accommodations. "They don't trust us," Kayla whispered as they settled into their quarters. Zira nodded. "We'll have to work hard to change their minds." The next day, they attended a formal meeting with the Nexusian High Council. The council chamber was a marvel of architecture, with holographic displays floating in the air and chairs that seemed to defy gravity. As Jeremy stepped forward to address the council, he could feel the weight of their scrutiny. "Esteemed members of the High Council," he began, his voice steady, "we come before you today not just as representatives of Earth and Soleil, but as living proof of what can be achieved when different species work together in harmony." As Jeremy spoke, he could see the council members' expressions shift from skepticism to curiosity. Zira and Kayla joined him, each adding their own perspectives on the benefits of the alliance. However, their progress was nearly undone during the subsequent reception. A Nexusian diplomat, emboldened by the planet's potent fermented nectar, approached the trio with a sneer. "How can we trust an alliance that produces aberrations like you three?" he said, gesturing at their group. The room fell silent. Jeremy felt a surge of anger, but before he could respond, Kayla stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Our relationship may seem strange to you," she said, "but it is built on mutual respect, understanding, and love. These are the same principles that form the foundation of our alliance." Zira added, "We don't ask you to fully understand or approve of our personal choices. We only ask that you judge our alliance based on its merits and the opportunities it presents for all our peoples." The diplomat seemed taken aback by their measured responses. As murmurs of approval spread through the crowd, Jeremy realized they had turned a potential disaster into a moment of connection. Over the next few days, the trio worked tirelessly to win over the Nexusians. They participated in technological exchanges, cultural events, and even a public debate on the merits of interspecies cooperation. Slowly but surely, they began to see a shift in the Nexusian attitude. Their efforts culminated in a breakthrough negotiation session. Jeremy, drawing on his military background, proposed a joint defense initiative that would benefit both Nexus Prime and the Alliance. Zira's scientific expertise came into play as she outlined potential collaborations in advanced research. Kayla's diplomatic skills shone as she deftly addressed the Nexusians' lingering concerns. As the final documents were signed, establishing a trade agreement and defense partnership between Nexus Prime and the Earth-Soleil Alliance, Jeremy felt a sense of triumph. They had faced their first major challenge and succeeded. However, as they prepared to leave for their next destination, the agrarian world of Verdant, Jeremy couldn't shake the feeling that greater challenges lay ahead. The complexities of galactic politics and the weight of their responsibilities were becoming increasingly clear. As the Harmony lifted off from Nexus Prime, Jeremy gazed out at the stars, Zira and Kayla by his side. Their journey was just beginning, and the true test of their persistence and their relationship was yet to come. As the Harmony departed Nexus Prime, Jeremy couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that their galactic tour was about to take an unexpected turn. His instincts proved correct when Ambassador Reyes contacted them via secure channel, her face etched with concern. "We need you to return to Earth immediately," she said, her voice tense. "The Zoraxian disinformation campaign has escalated, and we've received credible threats against you three. More importantly, we need to ensure the safety of your unborn child." Jeremy, Zira, and Kala exchanged worried glances. They had known the pregnancy would complicate matters, but they hadn't anticipated cutting their tour short. "We understand, Ambassador," Jeremy replied. "We'll set course for Earth right away." The journey back was fraught with tension. Zira experienced bouts of nausea, a side effect of the interspecies pregnancy that the ship's medical facilities were ill-equipped to handle. Kala spent hours researching human and Soleil physiology, trying to anticipate potential complications. Upon landing, they were immediately whisked away to a secure medical facility. The stark white corridors and advanced equipment reflected the joint efforts of Earth and Soleil scientists. Dr. Marcus Reyes, a tall man with kind eyes and a reassuring demeanor, greeted them. "Welcome," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Dr. Reyes, head of xenobiology here. We're going to take excellent care of you and your child." The next few hours were a whirlwind of tests and examinations. Zira lay on a specially designed biobed, surrounded by holographic displays of her internal systems. Jeremy and Kayla stood nearby, their hands intertwined as they watched the proceedings with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. Dr. Reyes studied the results, his brow furrowed in concentration. "The fetus is developing well," he announced finally. "However, we're seeing some unique challenges due to the differing physiologies. We'll need to develop a specialized treatment plan." As the medical team worked, Ambassador Reyes arrived to brief them on the political situation. "The Zoraxians are spreading wild rumors about your child," she explained. "They're claiming it's a biological weapon, a threat to both human and Soleil genetic purity. We need to counter these lies." Jeremy nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "What do you need us to do?" "We're organizing a series of public appearances," the ambassador replied. "We want you to share your story to show that your relationship and this child are symbols of unity, not division." The public events were a mixed bag. At a town hall in New York, Jeremy found himself facing a hostile crowd. "How can you betray your own species like this?" one man shouted, his face red with anger. Jeremy took a deep breath before responding. "Love isn't betrayal," he said calmly. "Our child represents the best of both worlds, a bridge between our species. That's something to celebrate, not fear." Meanwhile, on Soleil, Kayla addressed the High Council. "This child is not a threat to our genetic legacy," she stated firmly. "It's a new chapter in our evolutionary story, one that we're writing together with humanity." As weeks passed, Zira's pregnancy progressed, but not without complications. She developed a rare form of interspecies preeclampsia, requiring constant medical supervision. Jeremy and Kayla took turns staying by her side, their worry growing with each passing day. The strain began to show in their relationship. One night, after a particularly stressful day of medical treatments, Jeremy found Kala alone in their quarters, her antenna drooping with fatigue. "I feel so helpless," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to do more for Zira, for our child, but I don't know how." Jeremy sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You're doing everything you can," he assured her. "We're in this together, remember?" Their moment of peace was shattered by the blaring of alarms. The facility shook with the impact of explosions. Jeremy's military training kicked in as he leapt to his feet. "Zoraxian attack," he said grimly. "We need to get to Zira." They raced through chaotic corridors, dodging panicked staff and debris. When they reached the medical wing, they found Dr. Reyes and his team already preparing to move Zira. "We have a secure transport ready," Dr. Reyes shouted over the din. "We need to get her out of here now." As they rushed Zira to the waiting vehicle, Jeremy caught glimpses of the battle raging outside. Earth and Soleil security forces fought side by side, repelling the Zoraxian assault with coordinated efficiency. Once safely away from the facility, Ambassador Reyes contacted them via secure channel. "We can't risk another attack," she said, her face grim. "We're relocating you to a secret location on Saleh. It's the safest option for all of you." Days later, Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla found themselves in a hidden compound deep within Saleh's vast forests. The isolation provided a much-needed respite from the constant public scrutiny, but it also brought new challenges. One evening, as they sat watching the twin moons of Saleh rise over the treetops, Zira broached a subject they had been avoiding. "We need to discuss the Saleh bonding ritual," she said softly. "If we're to be a true family in the eyes of my people, it's an important step." Jeremy and Kayla exchanged glances. They had known this moment would come, but the reality of it still felt overwhelming. "I'm ready," Jeremy said, taking both their hands in his. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." The bonding ritual, performed by a Saleh elder and broadcast across both planets, became a powerful symbol of unity. As Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla completed the ancient rites, linking their minds and spirits in the Saleh tradition, they felt a profound sense of connection, not just to each other, but to the future they were building. As Zira's due date approached, the compound transformed into a state-of-the-art medical facility. Dr. Reyes and his team arrived, bringing with them equipment designed to handle any potential complications of the interspecies birth. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Jeremy found himself pacing the corridors at night, his mind racing with thoughts of fatherhood and the weight of their child's symbolic importance. One evening, as he stood watching the sunset, Kala joined him. "No matter what happens," she said, her voice filled with willpower, "this child will be loved." Jeremy nodded, drawing strength from her presence. As they turned to head back inside, a sudden commotion caught their attention. Alarms blared, and security personnel raced past them. "Intruder alert," a voice announced over the compound's communication system. "Saleh separatist group detected attempting to breach the perimeter." Jeremy's heart raced as he realized the true test of their unity was about to begin. He exchanged a determined look with Kala before they rushed to defend their family in the future they had fought so hard to create. They raced through the compound, adrenaline pumping through their veins as they prepared to face this new threat. As they approached the medical wing, they found Dr. Reyes and his team already in defensive positions. "We need to move Zira now," Jeremy commanded, his military training kicking in. "Is she stable enough for transport?" Dr. Reyes nodded grimly. "We've been preparing for this possibility. The mobile medical unit is ready." With practiced efficiency, they transferred Zira onto a hover stretcher. Jeremy took point, leading the way through the compound's winding corridors. Kala stayed close to Zira, monitoring her vital signs on a portable device. As they reached the compound's underground hangar, the sounds of battle grew louder. Explosions rocked the facility, and the acrid smell of smoke filled the air. Jeremy's hand tightened on his weapon as he scanned for threats. "Almost there," he reassured Zira and Kala. "The transport's just ahead." Suddenly, a group of Saleh separatists burst through a side entrance, weapons raised. Jeremy reacted instantly, diving for cover and returning fire. Kala used her body to shield Zira, her antenna flaring with protective instinct. In the chaos of the firefight, Zira's labor intensified. She cried out in pain, her face contorted with effort. "The baby's coming," Dr. Reyes shouted over the din of battle. "We need to get her to safety now." With a surge of purpose, Jeremy and Kayla fought their way to the transport, covering Dr. Reyes as he guided Zira's hover stretcher. They managed to board just as another explosion rocked the hangar. As the transport lifted off, Jeremy caught a final glimpse of the compound erupting in flames. His heart raced, not just from the narrow escape, but from the realization that their child was about to enter a world of conflict and uncertainty. The next few hours passed in a blur of medical procedures, intense anticipation. Zira's labor progressed rapidly, her body adapting to the unique challenges of interspecies birth. Jeremy and Kayla remained by her side, offering words of encouragement and support. Finally, with one last push and a cry that seemed to echo through the stars, their child entered the world. Dr. Reyes held up the infant, a tiny being with features that blended human and Soleil characteristics in a breathtaking new form. "It's a girl," he announced, his voice filled with wonder. "And she's perfectly healthy." As the newborn was placed in Zira's arms, a profound silence fell over the group. Jeremy and Kayla leaned in, their eyes wide with amazement. The baby gazed back at them with eyes that held the depth of space itself. "She's beautiful," Kayla whispered, her antenna quivering with emotion. Jeremy nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He gently stroked the baby's cheek, marveling at the softness of her skin and the delicate pattern of scales that shimmered along her temples. As the reality of their new family settled in, Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla found themselves facing an unexpected challenge, choosing a name for their daughter. They wanted a name that would honor both human and Soleil heritage, something that could bridge the gap between their worlds. "What about Nova?" Zira suggested after days of deliberation. "It means new in an Old Earth language, and it sounds similar to the Soleil word for unity." Jeremy and Kayla exchanged glances, smiles spreading across their faces. "Nova," Jeremy repeated, testing the name. "It's perfect." The name announcement was met with widespread approval from both humans and Soleil. Nova quickly became a symbol of hope and cooperation between the two species. In the months that followed, Jeremy, Zira, and Kayla divided their time between Earth and Soleil. They allowed both societies to witness Nova's healthy development, hoping to dispel any lingering fears or doubts about interspecies offspring. Dr. Reyes and his team continued to monitor Nova's growth, documenting unprecedented genetic adaptations. "She seems to be combining the best traits of both species," Dr. Reyes explained during one checkup. "Her immune system is remarkably robust, and her cognitive development is off the charts." As Nova approached her first birthday, however, the family's joy was tempered by growing galactic tensions. The Zoraxians, having failed to undermine the Earth-Soleil alliance through propaganda and covert attacks, launched a full-scale invasion of a neutral system near Soleil space. Jeremy knew immediately what he had to do. "I need to lead the joint task force," he told Zira and Kayla one evening, his voice heavy with the weight of duty. "We can't let the Zoraxians destroy everything we've built." Zira nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and fear. "I've been working on a new shield technology," she said. "It could give our forces a significant advantage." Kayla stepped forward, her antenna set with perseverance. "And I'll use my diplomatic connections to forge a coalition of neutral worlds. We'll need all the support we can get." As Jeremy prepared for deployment, the family shared an emotional farewell. The image of the human soldier embracing his Soleil partners and their hybrid child became an iconic symbol, galvanizing support for the alliance across both worlds. Jeremy knelt before Nova, who gurgled happily, unaware of the gravity of the moment. "I'll come back to you," he promised, his voice barely above a whisper. "No matter what it takes." With a final embrace, Jeremy boarded the command ship. As the fleet lifted off, he watched Earth grow smaller through the viewport, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The battle for the future of the Earth-Soleil alliance.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.